The massive alien ship appeared over New York without warning. It hung in the sky like a silver plate, nearly 2 miles across. People on the streets stopped and stared. Some ran, some took pictures, but everyone felt the same thing. Everything was about to change. Commander John Miller stood on the roof of the United Nations building. Next to him, diplomat Susan Clark checked her notes one last time. "Ready?" John asked. Susan nodded, as ready as anyone can be to meet aliens. The sky lit up with a blue beam, and 5 figures materialized in front of them. The aliens were tall and thin with pale purple skin. 4 of them wore simple gray uniforms, but the one in the middle wore flowing robes with strange symbols. "I am Ambassador Zertal of the Valorian species," the robed alien said in perfect English. "I speak for the Galactic Council, the union of the 83 most advanced species in this sector of the galaxy." John stepped forward. "Commander John Miller, United Earth Navy. This is Susan Clark, our chief diplomat." Susan smiled. "Welcome to Earth. We are honored by your visit." Zertal bowed slightly. "We have watched your world for some time. Your species has advanced quickly. The Council believes humans are ready to join our community." The meeting moved inside to a large conference room. Leaders from around the world joined by video. For 3 hours, Zertal explained the benefits of joining the Council: trade routes, technology sharing, protection from hostile species. It all sounded perfect. Too perfect, John thought. During a break, John noticed one of the alien guards placing something under the table. It was small and silver, about the size of a coin. "What's that?" John asked, pointing. The alien stepped back. "A translation device." But John had used translation devices in his military career. This wasn't one. That night, in a secure room deep under the UN building, John met with Susan and the president. "They're lying to us," John said. He placed 3 small devices on the table. "These were hidden in the meeting room. Our tech team says they're not for translation. They're scanning our brain patterns." Susan frowned. "Why would they do that?" "To learn how we think, how we make decisions." John crossed his arms. "They're studying us like lab rats." The president leaned forward. "Are you sure?" John nodded. "And there's more. The ship is scanning our whole planet. They say it's to help with integration, but they're mapping everything. Military bases, power plants, water supplies." The next day, Susan confronted Zertal. "These devices," she said, placing them on the table. "They're not translation tools." Zertal's face showed no emotion. "All new species are studied for compatibility. Without our permission. Your primitive concerns for privacy are quaint." Zertal waved a hand. "The Council knows what is best. We have guided many species before yours." For a week, talks continued, but Earth's leaders grew more worried. The Council demanded Earth change many of its ways. Humans would need to follow Council laws. Earth resources would be shared with the Council. Human military forces would be limited. On the 7th day, the United Nations voted. The result was clear. Earth would not join the Galactic Council. When Susan told Zertal the decision, the alien's calm mask finally broke. "Refuse. You refuse the Council." Zertal's voice rose. "No species has ever rejected our offer. We wish to have relations with the Council," Susan said calmly, "but as equals, not as subjects." "You don't understand what you're doing," Zertal hissed. "Your species needs our guidance." "We'll find our own way," John said, stepping forward. Zertal stared at them both, then turned away. "The Council will not be pleased." That evening, the alien ship left Earth's orbit. As John watched it go, Susan stood beside him. "Did we just make a terrible mistake?" she asked. John shook his head. "No, we just showed the galaxy something they've never seen before." "What's that?" "A species that won't be controlled." John smiled. And I think that scares them more than anything. The Great Hall of Centauri Prime buzzed with angry voices. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in curved rows that rose up like a bowl. At the center stood Ambassador Zertal, his purple skin now pale with stress. "Silence," shouted High Counselor Vexmore. Unlike the thin Valorians, Vexmore was large with thick gray skin and 6 eyes that blinked in different patterns. As leader of the Praxian Confederation, he outranked everyone in the room. The noise died down. "You mean to tell us," Vexmore said slowly, "that these humans simply said no?" Zertal bowed his head. "Yes, High Counselor. They found our scanning devices and became difficult. Impossible," shouted a representative from the back. "No species has ever rejected council membership." In a dark corner of the upper level, Lisa Rogers watched carefully. As Earth's unofficial observer, she wasn't supposed to be in this emergency meeting. But after 3 years on Centauri Prime, she knew how to blend in. With her skin dyed blue and fake ridges glued to her forehead, she looked like any other minor Centaurian official. "Show us these humans," ordered Vexmore. A large screen appeared in the air. It showed images of Earth cities, military bases, and factories. "As you can see," said another council member, "they are not especially advanced. Their technology is at least 200 cycles behind the council standard." Lisa bit her lip to keep from smiling. The council's information was wrong. Earth had hidden its best technology for years, suspecting they were being washed. "But there is a problem," continued Zertal. "Their development speed is unlike anything we have seen. Look at this chart." The screen changed to show a line moving up very quickly. "This shows their technological advancement over the past 100 years. It is 5 times faster than any species we have encountered." The room grew quiet. "If they continue at this pace," said Vexmore, "how long until they reach our level?" 20 years, replied Zertal. "Possibly less." Now the room exploded with noise. Lissa activated the small recorder hidden in her sleeve. The president needed to hear this. "We must act now," shouted one representative. "Isolate their system. Cut them off from all contact." "No," argued another. "We should force them to join. Show them our power." A third voice called out, "The only solution is military containment. We must limit their growth before they become a threat." Lisa had heard enough. She slipped out of the hall and made her way through the twisting corridors of the council building. In her small apartment, she prepared her report. The human colony on Mars would send a ship tomorrow. Her information needed to be on it. A knock at her door made her freeze. "Security check," said a voice. Lisa quickly hid her recorder in a special pocket that blocked scans. She opened the door. 2 draconian guards stood there, their scaled faces impossible to read. "Random security check," one said. "Council orders." They searched her apartment but found nothing. As they left, one turned back. "The council is watching all off-worlders more carefully now," he said. "Be careful, Blue One." Lisa nodded, her heart racing. The next day, she went to the trade district. Pretending to shop, she passed by a human merchant who worked for Earth Intelligence. With a quick movement, she dropped the data chip into his bag. 3 days later, back on Earth, President Harris looked grim as he watched Lisa's recording. "So the council is afraid of us," he said. Admiral Frank Daniels nodded. "And afraid means dangerous. We need to prepare." "For what?" asked Susan Clark, now promoted to Secretary of Foreign Affairs. "For whatever comes next," Commander John Miller answered. "The council won't accept our answer. They've never had to." The president stood up. "Then we better make sure we're ready when they come back, because they will come back." Outside the window, military ships rose into the sky. Earth was preparing for war. Admiral Frank Daniels stood on the bridge of Earth's newest ship. The floor beneath him hummed with power. Around him, 50 men and women worked at screens, preparing for the ship's first real flight. "All systems ready, sir," said Lieutenant Amy Foster. Frank nodded. 6 months had passed since the aliens left. 6 months of hard work and tough decisions. The president is online, Amy said. A screen lit up showing President Harris and the world's other leaders. Admiral, the president said, is the Defiant ready? Yes, sir, Frank replied. Dr. Martinez's new engines are installed and tested. We're ready to break the light speed barrier. On another screen, Dr. Olivia Martinez watched from her lab. Her dark hair was pulled back, and she hadn't slept in 2 days. The engines will work, she said. The aliens don't know we figured out their technology. We've improved it, actually. The president looked serious. This is a big day for Earth, our first true starship. Everyone knew what was at stake. Lisa Rogers had sent 3 more secret messages from Centauri Prime. The council was still arguing about what to do with Earth, but they all agreed on one thing. Humans needed to be controlled. Captain Hayes, Frank called. Take us out. Peter Hayes, the young captain of the Defiant, took his seat. Yes, sir. Beginning launch sequence. Outside, massive doors opened in the side of a mountain. The ship, shaped like a black arrow, slid out on rails. Its surface didn't reflect light. Another human invention, stealth materials that even the council's sensors couldn't detect. The Defiant rose smoothly into the air. Within minutes, it passed through the clouds, then the upper atmosphere, and finally into space. Engine room reports ready for light jump, Captain Hayes announced. Frank took a deep breath. If this worked, everything would change. Proceed, Captain. The stars outside the view screen suddenly stretched into lines. There was a moment of pressure, then a soft pop. The ship was now traveling faster than light. It worked. Dr. Martinez shouted, clapping her hands. We did it. But there was no time for celebrations. Earth had much more to do. Back on Earth, Susan Clark led a team setting up defense satellites around the planet. These weren't normal satellites. They used technology reverse-engineered from the Council's scanning devices. Station 4 is online, reported a technician. Susan nodded. That completes the inner ring. Outer ring will be ready next week. In another room, military leaders watched as small robots built weapons designed to fight alien ships. They're probably watching us, John Miller said. He had been promoted to colonel after the alien visit. The Council surely has spies in our system. Let them watch, replied General Patel. They'll see us getting ready. Maybe it will make them think twice. John wasn't so sure, or it might make them attack sooner. In the deepest part of the military base, behind doors that required 5 different people to open, a special team worked on something called Project Wildcard. Only 10 people on Earth knew what it was. Even the president only knew part of it. If we can make this work, said Dr. Martinez to Colonel Miller, it doesn't matter what the council does. We'll have an answer. John looked at the complex diagrams on the wall. How long? 3 months, maybe 4. The council might not give us that much time. Olivia smiled. Then we'll just have to be creative, won't we? In space, at the edge of the solar system, the Defiant detected something, a small probe, council design, watching Earth. Captain Hayes gave the order, and a beam of energy shot out, cutting the probe in half. Message sent, he said quietly. The first probe was followed by 3 more. Each was destroyed. Earth was making its position clear. This solar system belonged to humans. Then, on a quiet Tuesday morning, alarms sounded across every military base on the planet. 50 large ships had just appeared near Jupiter. The Council had made its decision. The talking was over. The Council ships formed a perfect line near Jupiter. They were huge, each one 10 times bigger than the Defiant. Their hulls gleamed with a silver light that made them look like stars. On Earth, every screen showed the same image. People stood in streets, in homes, in offices, watching and waiting. What do they want? President Harris asked. The answer came moments later. A message broadcast on all channels. People of Earth, said Admiral Krelthar, his reptilian face filling screens around the world. "I speak for the Galactic Council. Your rejection of our generous offer was unfortunate, but the Council is kind. We give you one more chance to join us. Accept now, or we will block all travel in and out of your system. You have 6 hours to decide." In the war room beneath the White House, Earth's leaders gathered. "It's a blockade," said Susan Clark. "They'll cut us off from space travel." "Can we fight them?" asked the president. Admiral Daniels shook his head. "Not directly. They have too many ships." Colonel Miller stepped forward. "But we don't need to fight them all. We just need to show them we can hurt them." The Defiant. Admiral Daniels nodded. "Captain Hayes is ready." The president looked around the room. Every face showed the same determination. Earth would not bow down. Secretary General William Carter was chosen to deliver Earth's answer. He stood before cameras, his voice steady. "To the Galactic Council, humanity will not be coerced. We reject your ultimatum. This system is our home, and we will defend it. We seek peaceful relations with all species, but only as equals." The message was sent. The 6-hour deadline passed. The Council ships began to spread out, forming a ring around the solar system. Smaller ships moved toward Earth. "They're sending scouts," Captain Hayes reported from the Defiant, hiding behind one of Jupiter's moons. "5 ships heading this way." "Stay hidden until they pass," ordered Admiral Daniels from Earth. "Then pick one and show them what we can do." The scout ships moved quickly, their sensors sweeping the space around Jupiter. They passed the moon where the Defiant waited. "Now," said Captain Hayes. The Defiant shot out from behind the moon. Its new engines flared with blue light as it raced toward the last scout ship. The alien vessel turned, trying to aim its weapons. Too late. The Defiant fired once. A pulse of energy hit the scout ship's engines. All its lights went out at once. It began to drift. "Target disabled," reported Lieutenant Foster. "No destruction, no casualties, just like you ordered, sir." Captain Hayes nodded. "Send the message." The Defiant broadcast on the Council's own frequency. "Your ship is disabled, not destroyed. We could have killed your crew. Remember that." Then the Defiant vanished, jumping to light speed before the other scouts could react. On the Council command ship, Admiral Krelthar received the news with shock. "Impossible," he growled. "How did they disable one of our ships so easily?" His officers had no answer. More reports came in. Council probes found advanced defense systems throughout the solar system. Human ships were spotted and then disappeared before they could be tracked. Earth was not the easy target they had expected. Word spread quickly through the Council fleet. Humans had technology that shouldn't be possible for them. Humans could hurt Council ships without destroying them, showing both mercy and control. Humans were not afraid. For the first time, some Council species began to wonder if fighting humans was a good idea. Back on Centaur Prime, news of the incident reached other species. A small group of representatives from non-Council worlds met in secret. "If humans can stand up to the Council," one said, "perhaps we have been too afraid for too long." The seeds of rebellion were planted. The Council's power, unchallenged for thousands of years, was beginning to crack. 2 weeks after the standoff began, a strange message reached Earth. It came through old radio frequencies that the Council didn't monitor. "To the people of Earth, not all in this galaxy agree with the Council. We wish to talk. If you are willing, send one ship to the coordinates that follow." The message ended with a set of numbers pointing to a place near a star called Arcturus. "It's a trap," said Admiral Daniels. "The Council is trying to lure us out." "Maybe," Susan Clark replied. "But what if it's not? What if there are others who feel the same way we do about the Council?" After much debate, they decided to take the risk. Ambassador Nicole Ramirez was chosen to go. Young and smart, she had studied alien cultures all her life. The Defiant would take her to the meeting point. Captain Hayes didn't like it, but orders were orders. "If anything seems wrong, we leave immediately." he told Nicole as they prepared to depart. Nicole nodded, trying to hide her excitement. She would be the first human to meet aliens who weren't part of the Council. The Defiant slipped past the Council blockade using its stealth technology. 3 days later, it reached the meeting point. "There's a ship waiting," Lieutenant Foster reported. I've never seen anything like it." The alien ship looked like a blue crystal. It sparkled in the starlight, changing colors as it moved. A voice came through the radio. "Greetings, humans. I am Trellnar of the Arcturus Coalition. May we come aboard to talk?" After careful scans showed no weapons, Captain Hayes agreed. 3 aliens transported onto the Defiant. They were shorter than humans, with 4 arms and skin that shimmered like their ship. "Thank you for coming," Trellnar said, bowing low. "We have watched your struggle with great interest." In the ship's meeting room, Trellnar explained, "The Arcturus Coalition formed 300 years ago, when our worlds rejected Council membership, just as you did. The Council tried to force us to join too, but there were 17 of our worlds, spread far apart. They couldn't blockade us all. So there are others who stand against the Council?" Nicole asked. "More than you know," Trellnar replied. "The Council rules through fear and control. They restrict technology, limit trade, and monitor communication between worlds. They claim it's for safety, but it's really about keeping power." Nicole leaned forward. "Then why haven't more planets rebelled?" "Because the Council tells each species they are alone. They control all news and information. Most worlds don't know there are others who feel the same way." Captain Hayes frowned. "Why tell us this? Why help us?" Trellnar's eyes, large and purple, blinked slowly. "Because you did something no one has done in 1,000 years. You stood up to them publicly. And now, word is spreading." The alien took out a small device and placed it on the table. It projected a map showing hundreds of stars. "These are Council worlds where people are beginning to question their leaders. These others," he pointed to a smaller group of stars, "are worlds ready to break away if given a chance." Nicole's eyes widened. "You're talking about revolution." "We're talking about freedom," Trellnar corrected. "And humans might be the spark that starts the fire." Back on Earth, the President listened to Nicole's report with growing hope. "The Arcturus Coalition has offered us technology, information, and safe places for our ships," she explained. "In return, they ask us to help spread the truth about the Council to other worlds." "How would we do that?" Susan Clark asked. Colonel Miller smiled. "Project Wildcard. It's ready." Dr. Martinez nodded. "We've developed a way to broadcast messages that bypass Council communication controls. We can reach every species in Council space." "And what do we tell them?" asked the President. "The truth," Nicole said simply. "That they don't have to obey the Council. That others have said no. That they have a choice." The President looked around the room. "Then let's form this alliance. Let's show the galaxy what freedom looks like." In space, the Council blockade continued. But now, Earth wasn't just fighting for itself. It was fighting for a new kind of galaxy. On Centauri Prime, High Counselor Vex Moore pounded his fist on the table. Reports from the Earth blockade showed no progress. Worse, strange messages were appearing on Council communication channels. Messages about Earth's resistance. "This has gone on too long," Vex Moore growled. His 6 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of extreme anger. "We must end this human problem now." The other Council leaders shifted uncomfortably. Elder Xanthos, the oldest member of the Council, spoke up. "Perhaps we should try actual diplomacy. Offer them fair terms." "Weak," shouted Vex Moore. "They are primitives who need to be taught their place." He turned to Admiral Krelfar. "Prepare your fleet for attack. Destroy their defenses and main cities. Show them the cost of defiance." Elder Xanthos rose to his feet. "I do not agree to this action. The full Council has not voted." "We don't have time for votes," Vex Moore snapped. "I am taking emergency powers as High Counselor." Several council members gasped. This had never happened before. "You cannot do this," said the representative from the Valorian species. "I already have." Vexmore pressed a button on his wrist device. "The attack orders are sent." In space near Jupiter, the Council fleet received the orders. But something unexpected happened. Nearly half the ships did not move. Admiral Krelfar's angry voice came over the communication system. "All ships advance. This is a direct order." A Valorian captain responded, "We cannot attack without full Council approval. This action is against our laws." "Traitors!" shouted Krelfar. The Council fleet split apart. The Draconian and Hexeri ships moved toward Earth. The Valorian and Quantum Unity vessels stayed in position. Then the unthinkable happened. Draconian ships fired on the Valorian vessels. Civil war had broken out in the Council forces. The Defiant was on patrol near Europa when Captain Hayes saw the Council ships firing on each other. "What's happening?" he asked. Lieutenant Foster checked her screens. "It looks like they're fighting each other, sir." Hayes made a quick decision. "Move in closer. There are civilian transport ships caught in the crossfire." The Defiant raced toward the battle. 3 small Council ships, marked as medical transports, were trapped between the fighting forces. "Get between those medical ships and the Draconian cruiser," Hayes ordered. "Shield them." The Defiant took position, its advanced shields absorbing weapon fire meant for the medical vessels. "Open a channel to those transports," Hayes said. "Tell them to follow us out of the battle zone." On all 3 medical ships, the alien crews watched in shock as a human vessel protected them from their own people. The Defiant guided the medical ships to safety, then returned to help others caught in the growing battle. On thousands of worlds across the galaxy, people watched these events unfold. Earth ships were rescuing Council civilians while Council forces fought each other. The images spread like wildfire through communication networks. Lisa Rogers, still undercover on Centauri Prime, walked quickly through the crowded streets. For the first time, she didn't need to hide. No one was looking for spies anymore. They were too busy watching the screens showing Council ships firing on each other. Outside the Council building, crowds gathered. Species that had been enemies for centuries stood together, united by their shock at what was happening. "The Council lied to us," someone shouted. Others took up the cry. Inside the building, Vexmore faced growing opposition. "You have broken our most sacred laws," Elder Xanthos said. "You ordered an attack without approval. You have started a civil war." "I did what was necessary," Vexmore insisted. "The humans are a threat to everything we've built." "The only threat," said Elder Xanthos sadly, "was your fear of losing control." Guards entered the chamber, but instead of obeying Vexmore, they surrounded him. "High Counselor Vexmore," Elder Xanthos announced, "you are removed from your position pending investigation." But it was too late to stop what had begun. Across Council space, the carefully maintained order was breaking down, and Earth was about to make its boldest move yet. In a secret room deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Olivia Martinez made final adjustments to a large machine. Screens around her showed data flowing in complex patterns. "Project Wildcard is ready," she said, looking up at Colonel Miller and Admiral Daniels. "Are you sure this will work?" Admiral Daniels asked. "The theory is sound," Olivia replied. "We can send messages through quantum space. The Council can't block them or trace them. Every communication device in Council space will receive our broadcast." The President joined them, looking at the machine with wonder. "The truth will be our most powerful weapon." Across the solar system, Earth ships prepared to move. The Council blockade was in chaos. Ships fought each other or drifted aimlessly, waiting for clear orders that never came. On the Defiant, Captain Hayes received new instructions. "We're going to Centauri Prime," he told his crew. "Right into the heart of Council space." Lieutenant Foster looked worried. "Sir, that's suicide." "Not if we time it right," Hayes replied with a small smile. "And we won't be going alone." 12 Earth ships gathered near Mars. They were joined by 5 vessels from the Arcturus Coalition and 3 ships that had defected from the Council fleet. Together, they jumped to light speed, heading straight for Centauri Prime. On Earth, Olivia Martinez took a deep breath and pressed a series of buttons. Broadcast starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The machine hummed. Blue light pulsed through tubes and wires. Then, across the entire galaxy, something remarkable happened. Every screen, every communication device, every information terminal in Council space suddenly showed the same message. The Council has lied to you. What followed was a simple but powerful message. It showed how the Council had manipulated member species, restricted technology, and punished those who questioned their rule. It showed Earth ships rescuing Council civilians during the recent battle. And it ended with a simple statement: you have a choice. Freedom is possible. While the broadcast played, Lieutenant Ryan Phillips led a small team of human special forces onto Centauri Prime. Their mission was the most dangerous of all: break into the Council's central information repository. Security is down, Ryan reported as they reached the massive building. The broadcast is causing chaos everywhere. Inside, they found what they were looking for: the Council's secret archives. Thousands of years of hidden information, records of species suppressed, technologies hidden, and rebellions crushed. Download everything, Ryan ordered. His team connected devices to the main computer. Data flowed into their storage units. An alarm sounded. "We've got company," said one of his team members. Council security forces appeared at the far end of the hall, but instead of attacking, the alien guards hesitated. "We're taking the truth to share with everyone," Ryan called out to them. "Your leaders have been lying to you for centuries." The guards looked at each other. Slowly, one of them lowered his weapon. "We know," he said. "The broadcast. We saw it too." On the Council command ship, Admiral Krellfar watched in horror as his fleet fell apart. Some ships were surrendering. Others were turning on each other. And reports from dozens of worlds showed the same thing. People were rising up against Council rule. "How is this possible?" he growled. His second-in-command looked at the screen showing an Earth ship rescuing Council civilians. "Perhaps," he said quietly, "we have been wrong about humans." Back on Earth, the President addressed the United Nations. "Today we launched Operation Wildcard, not just to defend Earth, but to free the galaxy from control and fear. The response has been greater than we could have hoped. Already, 47 worlds have declared independence from the Council." Around him, Earth's leaders applauded. But Susan Clark remained serious. "This is just the beginning," she said. "The Council won't fall without a fight." "Then we'll be ready," Admiral Daniels replied. "But we won't be fighting alone anymore." Across the stars, a new alliance was forming, and at its heart was the species the Council had feared most: humans. 1 month after Operation Wildcard, Earth looked different. Alien ships filled the skies. But they weren't invaders. They were visitors, diplomats, and allies. In New York, at the same United Nations building where humans first met the Council, representatives from 47 alien species gathered. They called it the Terran Conference. Ambassador Nicole Ramirez and Captain Peter Hayes led the human delegation. Together, they had visited 12 worlds in the past month, building trust and forming alliances. "I never thought I'd see this day," Nicole said as they watched ships land outside the building. "So many different species, coming to Earth as friends." Peter nodded. "And all because we said no to the wrong people." The conference room was specially built to accommodate beings of all shapes and sizes. Some floated in tanks of water. Others needed special gas mixtures to breathe. But all came with the same purpose: to build something better than the Council. "The old ways are finished," Trellnar of the Arcturus Coalition announced to the gathered species. "For too long, the Council ruled through fear and secrecy. Today, we begin a new path." The discussions were not easy. Each species had different needs, different fears. Some wanted a strong central authority. Others wanted complete independence. "We don't need to agree on everything," Nickel told the frustrated delegates on the third day. "We just need to agree that each world has the right to choose its own path." Slowly, a new framework emerged. They called it the Galactic Confederation. Unlike the Council, it would not force any world to join. It would share technology openly, allow free communication, and protect the rights of all member species. But even as they worked, danger was growing. The remains of the Council fleet had regrouped under Admiral Krelfar, and High Counselor Vex Moore had escaped custody, joining the hardliners who refused to accept the new reality. On the 7th day of the conference, alarms sounded. Council warships had been detected approaching Earth. "They're making one last desperate attack," Admiral Daniels reported to the gathered delegates. 20 ships, heavily armed. Many of the alien representatives looked afraid, but Nichols stepped forward. "This is what the Council always did, used fear to control us. Let's show them a different way." She turned to the alien delegates. "Will you stand with us?" One by one, they agreed. Ships from a dozen worlds rose to join Earth's defense fleet. For the first time, they would fight together. The battle was short but fierce. The Council ships, expecting to face only Earth vessels, were shocked to find themselves outnumbered by a combined fleet. Captain Hayes led the attack, with the Defiant taking heavy damage but fighting on. When Admiral Krelfar's flagship was surrounded, he surrendered. Among the captured was High Counselor Vex Moore, found hiding in a storage compartment. "You've ruined everything." Vex Moore spat as he was led away in chains. "Thousands of years of order and control." "That's exactly what we intended to do," Nickel replied calmly. 3 days later, the Terran Conference concluded. The Galactic Confederation was born, with Earth as a founding member, but not its ruler. Each world would have an equal vote. Technology would be shared openly, and the old Council archives would be made public, so no one could hide the truth again. On the observation deck of the new Confederation headquarters built in orbit around Earth, Captain Hayes stood with Dr. Martins. Below them, Earth gleamed blue and green. Above, ships from 100 worlds moved in peaceful patterns. "Was it worth it?" Olivia asked. "All the risk, all the danger." Peter watched as a small ship approached, carrying delegates from the newest world to join the Confederation. "Look around," he said with a smile. "For the first time in galactic history, species aren't being controlled. They're working together by choice." He pointed to a distant star. "And there are still thousands of worlds out there, waiting to join us. Not because they're forced to, but because they want to." Olivia nodded. "And it all started because humans did something no one expected." "We said no," Peter finished. "Sometimes that's the most powerful thing you can say."